In the next half hour on the marketplace, Ghana's tourism sector unlikely to meet even 40% of its revenue target for the year. We'll hear from the CEO of the authority. Also, ahead of the first ever diaspora breakfast show by the Ghana Investor Promotion Authority, we have a conversation with the CEO of Yofi Grant. Plus, Indian High Commissioner sets the record straight on the importation of drugs to Ghana amid Covid-19. We get to hear from him in a one-on-one interaction. We have all these and more coming up shortly after this break. Hello once again, you're welcome. I'm Charles Aite. Ghana's tourism sector unlikely to meet even 40% of its revenue target for the year. Of course, the chief executive of the authority explains that the changes of Ghana's tourism sector meeting at least 40% of its revenue target for this year are slim. This is because the country lost an estimated revenue of $171 million in a space of 4 months from March to June because of the coronavirus pandemic. Let's listen to the Chief Executive of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Akwesi Agyemang.
Last year we did 1.13. In the first quarter of the year, we did another 250. So give or take, we were expecting to do the numbers. But now, as we speak, if we're able to do even 400,000 this year, then that's a miracle, because from 250 throughout March till September, there were no flights coming in. And so the borders, land borders have also been closed. But we've seen a gradual movement. And so if we are doing about 400, 500,000, then that would be a very great success story, even within COVID. But that will also be saying that the first quarter of this year was quite good for us. January, February, March. In March, we had a very big delegation coming out from the attorneys generals from the US. And so we're all poised for a resounding success in 2020. But COVID had other plans for us. So we are cautiously optimistic that things will be better.
So finally, what more should we expect from the authority moving into 2021?
Our new strategy going forward is to look at domestic first. So we are coming back with our See Ghana, Eat Ghana, Wear Ghana campaign, phase 2. We're looking at regional. So once the land borders are also open, Nigeria is a big market for us. Last year we had Nigerians coming in about number 2 in the number of people coming into country. And so we will go back to our West African partners on the West Africa integrated travel that we had. Nigeria, Togo, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire are all key source markets for us. And so we'll target that before we start moving even Africa-wide and then globally.
That was the Chief Executive of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Akwesi Agyemang, who spoke to Joy Business at the 31st CIMG National Marketing Performance Awards, where he emerged the Marketing Man of the Year. Meanwhile, the Group CEO of Holland Ghana, Patience Achianu, was also recognized as the CIMG Marketing Woman of the Year, while the Marketing Manager of Fan Milk, Edwin Amwako, emerged the Marketing Practitioner of the Year. The Multimedia Group also won 4 awards. That's the Media Organization of the Year 2019, the Radio Program of the Year 2019, the New Media Campaign of the Year 2019, and the Digital Media of the Year 2019. We say congratulations to each and every one of you, especially Team Multimedia. Away from that, the Indian High Commissioner to Ghana, Sugandhi Rajaram, says claims that India restricted the importation of essential drugs to Ghana are false. I sat with him at his residence where he explains how some 4 million parcels of drugs have been shipped to Ghana for free to help in the fight against COVID-19.
From all the sides, I'll not just say from the government side, but also from the executors, because they are the professional businesses. They are not the public sector companies or the state institutions. So they are all professional companies and very, you can say, very much equipped with all necessary expertise and vision to make it sustainable. So, and as you mentioned, is very right that we need to look at the use not only in the short term, but in the long term, how this is going to contribute towards the nation building. And this has always been our effort, and I suppose this has always been the vision of the government authorities here. Yes, sometimes there are certain things which don't take all the efforts in this direction, but our effort definitely will be in this direction that you mentioned.
Great. Now let's move to COVID-19, because one interesting thing that happened during the lockdown season, the whole world, we had ports and harbors being on lockdown, and India restricted the exports of essential drugs to specific economies, especially when, you could correct me if I'm wrong, especially when they had their own challenges to deal with in terms of the population and COVID-19 impact on the medical industry. So many people have termed this particular stance of India as self-centered when it comes to trade ties with your colleagues, your friends on the ground, especially with Ghana.
Let me correct you this. I think what you have said, maybe I never came across such a view. But let me tell you that when we put the export control on the commercial export of it, this must be lauded, in fact, because we have a situation at hand not only in India, all over the world, which is social and human in nature. We cannot allow the commercial interests to see not to complement those efforts of the governments to address the rather to mitigate the pandemic, because the commercial entities will definitely continue with their commercial interest. They may stockpile, they may do hoarding, and then you don't have India has been considered as the pharmacy of the world. Not only the drugs, but also most of the vaccines come out of India, and particularly when it comes to Africa and for other developing world, India has been the only source from where the pharmaceutical products come. So we had to make sure that not only what you mentioned is not right, that we didn't look at our domestic situation, we looked at the human social situation all around the world, particularly in the developing world, to see that now we keep the commercial players out of this, and then now we as policymakers intervene and see that these drugs at that point of time, whatever the production quantity was there, will be distributed equally and as per needs to all, not only in India but overseas, particularly to our partner countries in the neighborhood, in Africa and many other developing countries. That was the logic. And what you say is not completely correct, that we focused on the situation on India. Yes, we had a very complex and very huge challenging situation at hand back home, but we never had that mind. We just put the export controls not to see that these things go out of India, but to see that we as policymakers intervene and see that. So we never stopped any pharmaceutical drug to wherever it was needed. We got the request collected through the governments, because when the situation is challenging in the countries, government health authorities used to communicate to us saying that yes, like the Ghana health authorities communicate to us saying that we are working with these private companies, please allow the export to these through these companies to Ghana, and we immediately allowed it. We didn't stop that. But just imagine that any private company which is not sourcing it for the government, for the general government needs and government efforts in this, it would have been gone in different direction and could have been used for making money. So that was basically the intention to intervene into this.
The main reason why I made this premise was because of the concerns that the Ghana Pharmaceutical Council raised. Indeed, they held a press conference stating that government will have to intervene in the local production of essential medicines, especially when India had placed restrictive access to most of these essential drugs. But you have clarified these claims and would want to find out, so how much in terms of quantity were you able to export into Ghana during this period of COVID-19?
Yeah, so I don't know because what happened was only for the first few days or weeks the export controls were there. Now they are no more there. I think since the production has been, I don't know, increased to 10 times or so, now it is in excess and it is now going to all over the world. But for the few days or weeks the intervention was done, I remember there were first two big consignments which were in the first 2-3 you can say weeks itself, where I think some 4 million or 6 million strips of those hydroxy, so HCQ drugs, paracetamol, erythromycin, so few of the essential drugs which were in the export. All other drugs were allowed, but only those 2-3 drugs. So I remember because it came to us for for recommendation. So definitely we strongly recommended it, and so the pharmaceutical industry here definitely in the beginning must have thought that it could go for a long time and it could hamper their their activities in terms of supplying the hospitals here. But when it was clarified to them, I think they must have also understood, because many of the businesses here, particularly the Indian pharmaceutical industries here, approached us and we explained it to them. So they know, but then I think this perception must have come into place only in the first few days.
So speaking of the pharmaceutical industry, we know India is a giant, as you said, the pharmacy of the world. And here in Ghana, we have the Ghana Pharmaceutical Council, and one challenge we face with is production capacity. So what has been the collaboration to ensure that we are at least in a leveraged mode when it comes to the supply of pharmaceutical products?
In fact, as you know that there is already, as I mentioned, that the cooperation in this sector started with trade only, the import of things from. Now most of the businesses from India have put up their facilities here so that they can do value addition. It will create, not only their effort towards industrialization of the country, but also to see that they reduce on the costs. Now we have pretty substantial production of certain drugs already happening here. Some of their ingredients come from India, and the process is on. So many of the pharmaceutical companies here are looking for the opportunities where they can start manufacturing certain drugs here. And many of them have kept me informed, saying that over the period of time in future they are putting up such facilities here, and that's logical, and that's also good for strengthening the relations, particularly in the pharmaceutical area. Many of the Indian businesses who have not been here and only exporting these necessary drugs to India are also now coming up saying that we'd like to join and they would like to come. So I think in once we settle after rather in the post pandemic situation, I see a lot of Indian businesses would be willing to either come on their own or will find local partners or will form the joint ventures.
How much in terms of an investment estimate are we looking at post-COVID-19 into the pharmaceutical industry of Ghana?
Yeah, so I cannot give the figure as such since I think nobody has committed in terms of numbers, but the commitment is there. I see even pre-COVID situation, they were looking at it from the commercial angle, and they saw this as a great opportunity. Now just imagine, post-pandemic, health becomes the most important area for economic cooperation. Now, in this situation, it's but natural that this sector will be highlighted by the Indian businesses for increased investments. So I see, if not, you can say, a very large amount, it will be substantial. It will be substantial investment.
You know, next year we're going to have the Continental Free Trade Agreement area. Where does your outfit, you know, stand when it comes to repositioning yourself to take advantage of this particular trade bloc?
Yes, so you have correctly mentioned that this is one of the wonderful development which has happened to give the fillip to the Indian businesses who have already made their presence in Ghana. Because they are here now, they have, you can say, advantage of the opportunities which are arising out of the African Continental FTA. And there are many areas where the Indian businesses can take advantage of this. Pharmaceutical is one of the areas, but you see automotive sector is another area, the IT sector is another area, the SMEs particularly in agro-processing and rural development. Oh, these are another area. Solar power development, another area. So the list will be rather endless, but to start with, I see you can say a positive you can say advantage for the Indian businesses who are already here and who are in the pipeline to come here. So they are in fact upbeat. The Indian industry, the Indian investors, particularly the SME businesses, they are very much upbeat with regard to entering quickly, because you know the big businesses from India are already here. They're already here. They have their representative offices, and they know that this FTA is coming, and so they are already taking advantage of this.
We do know that COVID-19 has had a toll, finally, on several businesses across the world. Recently, the Association of Ghana Industries released a barometer report that shows that over 80% of large-scale businesses, both foreign and local, are going to be recovering next year, not even this year because of COVID-19. Others have already been threatening to lay off staff. What are Indian businesses telling you, those situated here in Ghana? What are the concerns they've raised with you so far?
Yes, I think they definitely have the concern of how quickly they recover from the pandemic. So they are working with the authorities here, particularly the industry and the other economic authorities, to see that how best they can be supported to recover. But
supporting Indian businesses to recover.
Yes, so many of the Indian businesses. So many of the Indian businesses here are here for a long time. They are like Ghanaian businesses. So definitely they work very closely with the authorities here. Over the period, they have completely gelled into the business climate and environment here, and they work very closely with all the stakeholders. So like any Ghanaian business, they are also raising their concerns with the authorities and other stakeholders, be it like the banks to provide necessary credit with certain facilities and subsidies. So as you have mentioned that yes, the businesses face crunch on many fronts. It's not only say the disruption in the supply chains. It's not only the credit crunch. It's not only the disruption of both backward and forward linkages, the changes in the market. So there are challenges, and the businesses have concerns like any other business here. But what I see that the smaller and medium businesses have more, you can say, intense challenges. than the bigger businesses. So governments back home are aware of these challenges and prioritize their support in terms of the quantity and quality.
That was an extensive interview with the Indian High Commissioner, ranging from issues of COVID-19 to the Continental Free Trade Agreement area and other investment channels in Ghana. We're going to be taking a short break. When we come back, we have more stories, including the Governor of the Bank of Ghana hinting of a possible maintenance of, the Ghana cedi and its performance across several particular world economies. Do stay with us. You're welcome back. The Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, has hinted of a possible maintenance of the policy rate, which is the rate at which the Bank of Ghana lends to commercial banks. The policy rate is currently pegged at 14.5%. He made these comments after the Association of Ghana Industries called on the Bank of Ghana to review the policy rate downwards. There is more in this report.
Quality and Industry Awards, dubbed Building Resilience and Local Capacity Thaws After, was held over the weekend. The Association of Ghana Industries used the opportunity to call for a reduction in the policy rate. Vice President of the association in charge of small-scale businesses, Humphrey Eyim Dake, tells Joy Business a cut in the policy rate to single digits will enable SMEs compete fairly with their sub-Saharan African counterparts when the African Continental Free Trade takes off in January next year.
Building capacity is the most crucial issue, and therefore we urge the governor that regarding the financial reforms that had taken place recently, it's our wish to see the policy rates dropping to a single digit so that we can compete fairly with the Francophone countries who are neighbors, as well as the European countries. That becomes the basis of cost of funding being reasonable for the SMEs to build on their capacity and their managerial capacity.
Responding to the call by the association to reduce the policy rate, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, urged industry players to stay calm as the monetary policy rate will respond according to fiscal measures implemented to deal with the economic challenges.
We probably need to have patience to allow the system to consolidate itself and expect interest rates to go down consequently. And I say so because if you look at the profile of policy rates over the last 3 years, we have consistently gone down on the policy rates over the last 3 years. Till January this year, when we stopped at 14.5%, and the monetary policy rate has sort of stayed there, and there are reasons why they have stayed there. You're looking at the impact of the shock, and the impact of the shock, especially on the government's finances and the budget. So this is not the time to put the financing of the budget at risk by sort of going further down on the policy rate. And I think that as we move into 2021, when the fiscal challenges sort of moderated, one can reasonably expect the monetary policy rate to respond to those improvements.
The Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank is set to commence its quarterly review meeting from Wednesday, the 18th of November, 2020. Nicholas Brown for Joy Business.
And that'll be all for this edition of The Marketplace. My name is Charles Ait, and many thanks for your attention.